Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Catherine Phelan. I'm an independent consultant in the Atlanta area, and I'm thrilled to be here today to facilitate our conversation about recruiting and retaining teachers in our workforce. I'm just going to quickly ask for each of our panelists to introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about their program. Just give us an idea of the size of program you have, whether you're multi-site, small, independent, whether or not you have Head Start or early Head Start, and just nonprofit, for-profit, just so we have an idea of who we've got and what perspectives we have represented. And we'll start with you, Denise.
Good morning. I'm Denise Stewart from Learning Grove, and we are a nonprofit agency that operates 17 full-day programs across Greater Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky. We also partner with the Community Action Agency to provide early Head Start at 7 of our sites. I serve as, I've been a director for many, many years. Our agency has about just under 300 employees. And right now I'm working as on our HR team to try to help with this hiring crisis and also to implement equity initiatives.
Thank you, Denise.
Sure.
All right, next, our friends at Nurturing Nest.
Hi, I'm Kim McBee, and we are a not-for-profit center. I am the administrator, and we serve children 6 weeks to 3rd grade, and we're located up in Dayton.
And I'm Stacy Romine. I'm the assistant administrator. We also have a full-day kindergarten program on site. Yeah. And it's just us. We're just this one center.
Yeah, we're private.
Thank you. All right, Amy.
Yeah, I'll go next. My name is Amy Wise. I am a regional coordinator for the Early Childhood Resource Center in Stark County. I recently joined, though, about 4 weeks ago. I was an administrator for KinderCare for the last 14 years. So for those of you that don't know, that is a large corporate chain. My location was licensed for 130 children, and we were at full capacity. So it was a very busy school. And there being a tenured administrator, there were often times that you were pulled out to support other schools as well. So this last summer, I was supporting the North Ridgeville location, which is up in like Lorain County. So I was kind of traveling a little bit all over to support with the staffing crisis. So.
Great, thank you, Amy. And last but not least, Nancy.
Hi, I'm Nancy Hudachek. I'm the manager of the child care center that's connected to Dayton Children's Hospital. So it is actually a department of the hospital. We serve primarily hospital employees, but we also open to the community when we have spaces available. It is an infant through preschool program, and we serve about 82 kids with 24 staff.
Wow.
Great. Well, thanks, everyone. And I do want to acknowledge that we would love to have the family child care perspective represented here, but we were unable to get someone who would be available, largely due to the challenge with covering the program. So know that we miss that perspective, and we know that it is a valuable and necessary perspective always in this conversation. So we'll keep that in mind, maybe as we're talking about these challenges, and think about it for that setting and context as well. All right, so I'd like to start off. Judith, can you put up our first poll question? We're going to engage the audience here for a moment and get some of your input. So you'll see our first poll is up, and this is just to get an idea of what you think the range is that represents the early childhood turnover rate. This information is pre-COVID, so we don't have up-to-date information with the COVID context, but we just wanted to set the stage here. Polls are coming in. And these data are representative of Ohio, but I would say that they are probably representative across the country as well. All right, so we've got about 60% of participants have voted. They're coming in. I'll give it just another moment here. All right, thank you. So the winning range is 35 to 40%, and that is accurate. That is the case for the state of Ohio. And again, I'm fairly certain would be representative across the country in the workforce. That's a high rate of turnover in any profession. We know that this issue plagues our profession. This does not tease out whether or not people are leaving the field or simply leaving one place of employment to go to another one. But all of those types of turnover are probably reflected in this global number. I think it would be interesting to see whether or not those numbers are different with COVID in the mix. So I don't know who might be collecting those data, but I'm sure that would be a fascinating piece of information to include here. All right, thank you, Judith. Can close that first poll. All right, so I'm gonna present a question to the panel here, and I would just love to hear briefly a few minutes from each of you about what challenges your program has faced recently with recruiting and retaining teachers for your programs. So we'll start with Nancy, and you can give us an idea of what your recent challenges have been, particularly in this period of the COVID pandemic.
Muted.
Nancy, you're on mute. Could you unmute, please?
So sorry.
Thank
I
you.
think the major problem is that there aren't quality people out there willing to work. We are able to post through the hospital. So Indeed gets a posting, the colleges in the area get postings. And our ads are pretty specific. It's an assistant teacher and here's what you need to have and the experience you need to have. And I get applications that say I worked at Taco Bell. Well, part of that answers the questions, you know? So that's kind of, I think, what our major struggle has been, is just finding quality people.
Yeah, we'll get into, I think, this issue that the field struggles with, that people feel like, well, if you're a woman or if you've had a child, you could probably do this kind of work. And so maybe that's some of what we see reflected. But also the challenge of someone who may want to come into the field, but who has no experience, and being at a place in your program where you really do need qualified, experienced personnel. Thank you. All right. Amy, how about you? What are your experiences?
Similar to Nancy, but I was lucky enough that I could source candidates through like a recruiting app or website. But my issue was I couldn't get them to call me back or couldn't get them to show up for an interview. They were unable to be reached. And then the handful that did come and go through the process didn't show up for their first day. It's just really kind of like a hamster wheel that you're stuck in. And as you're trying to retain your current staff, their mental health is slowly decreasing because they're burnout. They're tired of working because we're short-staffed. So all around, it is a full picture, recruiting and retaining your current staff, which is definitely a huge challenge in times right now. But the biggest thing I think that was defeating me was I would try to get these candidates and I couldn't get them to call me back. I was spending so much time out there searching for them, and I just couldn't get them in.
Thank you. Yeah, we hear that that's a problem. Just even getting people to respond once they've expressed interest, right? Do they want to follow through, and do they really want the work? Thank you, Amy. Denise?
Yes, well, we've had similar experiences as Amy and Nancy. We've had people who go through the recruitment process, they apply, they provide all these things, and they don't show up for their orientation, or they go through the orientation and don't show up for their first day of work. But then our biggest issue right now, we've got like 40 openings across all of our programs. And we've got some before and after school programs that we cannot operate right now because we don't have the staff. And it's just really a challenge. And like Amy said, our teachers who work in these programs where they're short-staffed, and also their directors, they're getting burned out because the directors can't do their work because they're covering classrooms. Teachers are working overtime. While it may seem nice to have that extra money on your paycheck, it just wears you out. And, it's they're burning out. And so it's really a challenge. And I've participated in three job fairs in 3 weeks and got nothing. The second week, no one showed up. And it was one specifically geared towards early childhood professions. And so it's really disheartening. So it's tough.
Thank you, Denise.
Mm-hmm.
I think, we'll probably talk about this idea of burnout and the challenges, and we'll get into a little bit more detail, I hope, about programs having to be closed, or what you exactly are doing to cover huge gaps in staffing. So thank you for that, Denise. All right, Kim and Stacy.
I think for us is the biggest, same thing as everybody else. You can't get anybody to come in. You can't get them to ads. They call and don't come to interviews. The biggest thing that we've had is mainly people no call, no show. They'll come and work for a few months, and then all of a sudden, we don't hear from them. We have no clue what happened. They're gone. And we thought they were happy. We've done everything we can to make people feel comfortable when they come in and give them the training that they need. And then trying to retain our own staff, like you said, trying to do extra things for them, food, and when we have to work, don't get an hour break. Instead of we have to take a half-hour break, I try to supply an extra lunch for them. Those kinds of things to make them feel important, so that's probably the biggest hurdle we've had.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same as everybody else.
And then trying to avoid that burnout for the staff that we do have that are great, and we don't want them to go anywhere, but eventually they're going to reach their limit as well.
Yeah, there's always that ace in the hole that has worked. It was to give people food, but there's only so much that you can do. This is a bigger issue than just a lot of extra thank yous and perks that can address. One of the themes that I heard here is, and I think they're tied. Two of the themes that I heard are burnout and then people just not coming back. And I think that they're both tied to either new people not coming back or maybe people leaving the field because they're burned out, having had to do so much and cover so much because of the shortages. But also that idea that, wow, this is a lot more than I thought it was going to be, and I don't think I can do that. Would anyone like to speak to that? The idea that people maybe come in for a couple of days or come for orientation, and then they realize, oh, this is not just keeping kids. This is not just sitting and watching television while kids play. This is a lot of work, and we have a significant responsibility. Does someone want to talk a little bit more on their experience with that?
I will. When I interview someone, and I've been here for 29 years and never experienced anything like this before, because probably nobody else has either, but I share with them my passion of the nurturing nest and what, our goals are and what the job is. So many people come in and call it, we don't like it called daycare. We want it called early care and education because we take care of children, not, we're not babysitters. So I explained to them up front exactly what the job is. You're here to educate children. You're going to spend time with them. You're not just sitting down and watching them play. You're involved in them. Oh yeah, I can do that. I can do that. And then when it comes down to it, or you start getting into all that training that has to be done now, that I think is what's scaring them off. They're like, whoa, this is not what I expected. I expected to come in and just
Play and hang out.
Yeah. And go home.
Mhm.
So when you start adding all the training and all of the expectations of the paperwork, if you're an assistant, and they're new in the field, yeah, I think that's a lot of it.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Too. I think also, we don't know what kind of effects this pandemic has had on our children, and we're going to probably see that for the next couple years. We also don't know what it has on our own staff's mental health as well as our parents. So everyone out there in America is stressed out, and we have these little human beings that we're trying to catch up and mold them in, and it's hard. It's kind of turned into, we don't have that partnership with parents like we used to because they're just trying to get by as well. So teachers think that they're gonna come in and it's going to be fun, and it's very challenging. It's draining. There's, it's the children, in a preschool classroom, 3 of them are calling on you at the same time, whereas you're able to manage that before. And now teachers are not really equipped to handle the 1,000 things that are being thrown at you at one time. So I attribute a lot of that to the past, 1.5 to 2 years that we've gone through too. So it really has shaken our industry.
And then there's the fear of getting sick because our children are not vaccinated. A lot of our family members, the adults, are not vaccinated. And we've had several positive tests for COVID amongst our staff. And unfortunately, we had one who passed away a little over a week ago, but she was not vaccinated. But it's those things that contribute to the fear and the stress, the burnout. And, it's just, there's so much you can do. It's just really difficult. So I think people are afraid to come and work in our programs because of that fear, even though we go out of our way to exceed the cleaning and sanitizing requirements that are recommended by the CDC, to make sure that everybody inside of our environment are safe. But they're just people for whom that's just not enough. So, makes it difficult.
And to piggyback on what Amy said, we were a pandemic center, so we have been here the entire time. So we faced COVID in the very beginning, some of our staff members, and then it got better. And I think part of it has been, we're thinking, oh, this is finally over. And then we get hit with the Delta virus. And I spent August with RSV through the center like crazy. So yes, everybody's exhausted, and it's not just the work we do, it's all the added stress. Again, like Denise said, they don't want to get sick. These people have become our families, and you worry about them all day, every day.
Absolutely. Being in a caring field, it's a draining role in the best of times, even when everything is going beautifully, even when you are perfectly staffed and you have easy parents and children are not going through any developmental challenges, right? It's still draining. But to add on to that, and I don't know for your programs, I know many programs here, parents are no longer going into the center. They're no longer allowed to drop their children off at the classroom. They're dropped off at the main door. So those relationships that are so important between teachers and parents, they're not able to happen in the same way. And all of those natural touch points throughout the day are in question or are simply not there anymore. And so the idea of having to do something extra on top of those all of what you do already in the classroom, to have to possibly send emails to parents or figure out other ways to communicate with them what would normally happen in the regular course of your day, for example. It does add extra steps, extra work. Mm-hmm. And yes, we cannot underestimate the fear factor of catching this illness. We know that our workforce is not historically in the best of health. And so we know that our population may be very vulnerable to COVID because of other health issues. So thank you. I'm going to take a pause here and just remind the participants that we have the chat box. If you have any questions for our panel, if there's something that's burning that you'd like to know, Judith is going to be manning the panel to the chat box to see what the questions will be for the panel. And Judith, feel free to chime in and let us know if there's a question for anyone in particular or for the group.
Will do. Okay.
All right. Next question, next sort of thought. We've set the stage here, and it looks pretty grim. We do have challenges across the board with finding and keeping people. So what are some strategies that you've used? We've talked about what the bad news is. What's the good news? What are some of the strategies you've tried that have maybe worked, or that you're hopeful for working in the future? And try to be as concrete as you can about what those are, because we'd really like to come out of this with sharing other great ideas, being able to spread that out through our higher education colleagues, and be able to put a dent in this issue. So let's start with you, Denise. What were some of the strategies that you've used? You've talked about already about the job fair, but probably there are others. Tell us what's worked,
Sure.
And maybe what hasn't, but what have you tried?
Well, we offer hiring bonuses. If someone comes to us and they stay for 30 days, they get $300, okay, in addition to their salary. And that has worked somewhat. We've offered hiring bonuses for even more than that for our school age programs, because that's where we have the hardest time maintaining our staff. But that has seemed to work. But we've also tried to make sure that our current staff feel like they are appreciated, supported, not just by going around and giving lunches and stuff, but just engaging them in conversations with our agency leadership, just to have you tell us what's bothering you. What can we do better as an agency to make you want to stay here? And that's all tied to one of our key strategies, which is to elevate the profession, helping everyone see this profession as a true profession. We're just not babysitters or people who sit around and watch kids. it's much more than that. We are helping the children's brains develop. We are helping them to develop their social and emotional skills so that they're going to be successful when they get to kindergarten. You know, we do a lot of heavy lifting. That's all extremely important. And so we are trying to raise salaries. We did raise our entry-level salary to like $13 an hour. But then a couple of weeks after we did that, I passed by White Castle and saw that they were offering $13.50 an hour, you know, to come and work there. But we're doing what we can. But it's just making sure that our current staff feel that they are valued, and also encouraging people to come in. We have a wonderful benefit package too, which we let people know when they come for the interview, which is not something that's available to them in other places they can go to work. So those are a couple of the things that we've done.
Great. And the more you can do to try to present that package, I think the better. And it is a population that is not necessarily accustomed to having benefits. So I know in a program where I work, there was even a retirement plan, and they simply wanted everyone to just open an account. You didn't have to ever put anything in, because in the event that there were monies left over, the agency would distribute that across every open account. And people didn't open it. They just simply did not understand what that meant and what those kinds of benefits were about. All right, Nancy?
I think one of the things that helps, and it sounds like Amy probably has kind of that same experience, because we're part of the hospital and the hospital has an HR department and a recruiting program, a recruiter calls the folks first and they can get a feel of where they're at. And then I call them and I get a feel for what I think. And then I may call again to actually schedule the interview. And yes, it takes time. And yes, it's exhausting. But sometimes you kind of wear out the people that aren't going to show up and stay anyway. So if you can do as much as you can over the phone, at least you haven't, stopped your day and waited for an interview and they never show. I think it helps to have a multi-step, and you can make it up. If you don't have that kind of support, you call and then the teacher calls or an assistant calls, or just to make a few contacts first. Number one, they know you're pursuing them and that might feel good to them. And number two, sometimes it helps you to weed out the ones that aren't really going to come and stay anyway.
Yeah, that's an interesting approach. I think you hit on a good point. When someone is recruiting you, when you're talking to a recruiter, it's a very different feeling. You do feel very much like you're being pursued and that you have some value. So adding that step, both for your sake to, as you say, weed out people who probably would not make the cut, but also to touch on that professionalizing the field that Denise was talking
Right.
about, having a recruiter that is actively invested in filling these positions, gives it a different feel, I think, when they're talking to possible candidates. All right. Amy, anything to add on your strategies and what you've been doing?
Yeah, I'll probably get a thumbs down from this, but one of the biggest things that I did that I kind of shifted my culture in my building was kind of re-spark my own passion, because I'm in this wheel and I can't get out, and I'm calling people and it's, hi, it's Amy, and I kind of had to look at, the last 6 people that have left, what were the conditions, and did they send an email? Did they send a text? So what did that tell me? Maybe I was not the most approachable. Where I feel like I'm approachable, but I'm running around putting out flyers, to someone else, I don't look approachable because I'm in a classroom. So a lot of times what I found was they don't want to bother you because you are so busy. They don't want to stand in line at your office door to wait for you to get off the phone. So I really had to evaluate my own leadership and how I could reach them in different ways and ensure that they had a strong onboarding when they do come on. Doing 30, 60, 90-day check-ins, partnering them up with a mentor teacher so they are to ensure that they are successful. But I did, I set my expectations. Hey, this job is hard. There's days that I feel burnout. There's days that I leave here and I'm crying. So we're all in this together. No one understands this job more than the people that you work with every single day. My husband is a fireman. I don't understand his job. He doesn't understand mine, although I tell him mine is more important because I am building the future, but he's saving lives. He seems to think he wins. But it is important that you kind of look at through your own lens. What kind of culture am I setting in my class, in my building? Because it trickles down to your teachers too. And then your new staff come on board and it just kind of swallows them up. We did a lot of similar things, referral bonuses. So if we had a current employee that would have a friend that would come on board, we did a small bonus for them. One of the things that I kind of did as I was transitioning into my new role, I started sending texts to people when they would send their resume, because a lot of times you don't get on your email or so sending a quick text, kind of, we're speaking the language of 2021. People are always on their phones. And so if they get a quick text, they can send a text back and say, can we set up a time to talk more? Everything in the world now is relationship based. So if you can build a good relationship with someone over the phone, share your passion, they're going to want to work with you because they want to be part of that. They want to be part of that mission. One thing I actually just saw, and I don't want to admit this either, but I kind of am obsessed with that TikTok app, and I watch things on that app at night instead of going to sleep. I know it's terrible, but I saw it was actually for like a fast food place that did an ad for hiring, and there was a link at the end of it to apply. So why couldn't our industry, want to work with kids, and, do the whole TikTok thing? And I mean, we have to reach people in different ways because what we've been doing isn't working anymore. So all similar things to the other ladies had mentioned, but I'm thinking like we got to try some new stuff.
Oh, Amy, excellent points. And as the comments are coming in, several comments, you got all thumbs up.
Oh, good. No thumbs down.
What you shared, no thumbs down. No, I think, as Tracy is saying, self-evaluation is an important part of the process. Being able to self-reflect is critical to being able to make changes and improvements. And it is absolutely to be expected that you would also be feeling burnout. Even if you aren't the person who's in the classroom taking care of children all day, you're still taking care of the whole program. And probably, as you said, going into the classroom at times too. So it's understandable that you may not have the energy and sort of enthusiasm at your highest during this kind of time. It's extremely challenging. And you raise a really good point about approachability. I remember teachers telling me when I was running a program, they said, Catherine, we could tell by how fast you were walking and whether you had your hair stuck up with a pencil, whether or not it was a good time to ask you a question or approach you. And if all signs were no, then they wouldn't. But I was not necessarily aware of that. So how do I become aware? How do we become aware of when someone is in need?
Yeah.
And what can we do?
I used to hate the dreaded, do you have a minute? And I'm like, what is it going to be? And then it changed me and I'm like, this is not who I am. Like, I should care that you want to talk to me. And it's not that I didn't care. It was just, what now?
Right.
So I know exactly what everyone is struggling with.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being vulnerable and owning that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Stacy and Kim, something to add about your strategies and what you've been doing to try and address this topic?
Sure. So basically everything that everyone's already mentioned, we're doing that too. Something that we have started doing recently, there was a scholarship that was available for CDAs, and we had some staff in the past mention their want to go, pursue a CDA, potentially go back to school, that sort of thing. So when that opportunity came up, we jumped on it and presented it to those employees, really everyone. Are you interested in this? We'll help you. We'll buy supplies for you. We'll get the books for you. We'll walk you through the steps of getting the scholarship, whatever you need to get this, we will help you. And that goes for the further learning as well, with the college, things like that.
Great. So a couple comments from Karen, thumbs up for sharing this. Amy, again, thanks for being vulnerable, from Kathleen. And to share about the culture and changes you're willing to make. It resonates. From another one, balancing internal and external supports to make sure our valued workforce can maintain their commitment to the field. Very important. And Tammy says, no different than children, we need to meet staff where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just because we grow up doesn't mean our needs change entirely. We still need some of those same things. All right, let's do our next poll. Judith, can you pull up our second poll? And we'll get some thoughts from the audience here. What do you think are the primary reason professionals are leaving early childhood programs? So we've got the rate of pay, the number of hours, lack of benefits, a better position in ECE, maybe moving up to the assistant director or director position, or leaving the field entirely, or another one that maybe we haven't thought of, but you can tell us about. All right, we're getting close here. We'll give another few seconds. All right. All right, let's go ahead and end this poll. I think we have a winner here. Not a lot of surprises. The rate of pay. It is very difficult to maintain a living on the pay that our field receives. And we know that these are historic and systemic issues that we're not going to be able to solve today. I do understand that Ohio has made this what's called a critical position or something, right? Where along with other healthcare workers, childcare workers, and other critical positions, the state has recognized this position as being critical, but right now there's no funding that follows that. So, it's wonderful to be recognized and to be counted amongst the important critical jobs that there are, but we know that until and unless there can be some funding behind it, it's not necessarily going to make a difference. Does anyone, so here's a comment. I think the word benefits is specific to each person and would need to be examined on a case-by-case basis for a while to understand churn in early childhood. So does anyone have a thought on that, about the benefits that you offer, or what, if there are any benefits that you would like to offer that you're not currently able to? Where do you see it going? If you do offer what's considered a traditional slew of benefits, what else could you add? Have you ever thought of what that might be? Just anyone, feel free to jump in.
Well, in addition to the healthcare that includes dental and vision benefits, we offer a life insurance plan that is a true benefit. No one has to pay for it. And we also have an employee assistance program where they can call someone when they have an issue if they just need to talk it out, or if they have something that they need somebody to help them, where do I go to get this? And that's all free. And that's even free to employees who do not sign up for our benefit plan.
Denise, have you, I know, of course, all of those contacts are confidential, but do you receive data on whether or not the number of calls has increased since COVID, or decreased, or stayed the same?
Yes, they have definitely increased. We do get that data, and they definitely have increased since COVID shut us down a year and a half ago. Yes. But it's a wonderful, people are really happy to have that benefit. Just, you can make 5 phone calls to a counselor for free,
And do you receive any kind of aggregate data about what the topics are, or any kind of general information?
No, we don't have that yet, but
Yeah,
just the numbers who actually contact.
yeah, that's great. That's a wonderful benefit. One of those sort of softer benefits, if you will, rather than a hard benefit, but one that can be very useful, to address some of the points that we've already talked about: burnout and challenges and fear, and maybe what might be going on in their own lives because of COVID, and affecting their families outside of the program. Who else? So a couple of, a question, the poll question, is this poll question pre-COVID? Yes, just more of a general question. We don't have any data right now specific to what's different since COVID came into our world, but I think we could probably all anecdotally say it's the same problems, only greater, to a greater extent. The issues have been magnified by the realities of COVID. I think that's what we're hearing from the panel. All right, let's see. A menu of benefits could allow for more tailoring depending on the needs of the employee. That's a great idea. And I don't know, Judith, if it's possible for the audience to unmute or to join if anyone has a question or wants to expand on a comment that they've made, if that's possible for them to unmute and be able to contribute to the conversation.
Absolutely. If they raise their hand, we can allow them to talk. If anyone has anything to share at this point.
Great. While we're waiting to see if someone does want to add something, another question, how affordable are the benefits for the employees? I found in this industry that many could not afford the benefits, health, dental, vision, et cetera, with what they're making. So has anyone got an idea, can give us an idea about the affordability or the uptake? What percentage of your staff do take the benefits, or do you know if they're insured or have other benefits through a spouse or partner?
Most, I can speak for mine. I would say probably 60% of my staff did not elect the benefits, and we actually had like a tiered system where they could have like good, better, best package withdrawal from their paycheck. But when you make $10 an hour and $180 comes out of your check every 2 weeks for medical insurance, they were left with difficult choices to just opt out of that. And sometimes if they had a child, they were actually able to get government assistance easier than they were for us to provide medical benefits. But a lot of my staff, the younger girls, just opted for no insurance, and they honestly needed it more than anyone else because their mental health was what needed addressed after they ran out of their 6 visits, with the EPA program. So they were left burnout, overwhelmed, and that's when they left the industry. There's not a lot with our younger generation. I'm seeing that there's not a lot of forward thinking as far as planning for retirement, or, I'll worry about medical benefits later. I just need the paycheck right now. So.
Right, relying on the hope that you won't get sick. I'm young, I'm healthy,
Mhm.
and the realities that I need the money now for things that are right in front of me and not as an insurance plan against what might happen down the road. Anybody else have something to add about, the uptake of insurance or benefits in your programs? All right. So we'll shift a little bit, and we talked about strategies to attract people to the jobs, but what strategies have you used, if any, to attract those to the field? So people who have never worked in the field or have worked in other industries, whether that is a sister field, if you will, maybe some sort of other care program like a certified nurse's assistant, or some other field, or where else have you gone to try and draw people into the field?
Well, I'll speak. We're trying to develop our own teacher pipeline. We have a few relationships with community colleges, with Cincinnati State. They have they've asked us to operate their child care program on campus and operate their laboratory school. Gateway Community and Technical College in Northern Kentucky. We have a relationship with them where number one, our staff who don't have degrees can go there and get their associate degrees in early childhood education. And also we're available. We have a staff person who serves as an adjunct, and she can attract students from those programs to come and work for us. We also just recently opened a center at the Scarlet Oaks Career Development Campus. And they have high school students who are interested in childcare. And we recently hired 2 of those graduates to work in our program. And then once they come to work for us, we can help them with other training so that they can advance in their careers. So that's what we've been trying to do. I remember years ago, I was an adjunct at Cincinnati State, and I talked about the program that I was a director of, and all my students want to come there to complete their practicums and student teaching. And of course, every child care center always has at least one opening. And my students, several of my students applied and were hired to work there. So I think that's a really good opportunity for us to bring people into the field.
I think it's comparable to when your building is low on enrollment, so you have to go find children. It's the same kind of thing with staff. So when COVID kind of hit, we had to rethink, everything, meetings, what tours look like. So we actually created a virtual tour just using our Apple iPhone, taking it around the building, snapping it together. So I was like, that's a great idea. Why didn't we do that a lot sooner, And we did the same thing with our teachers, kind of like a commercial to work here. So tell me what's great. Tell me, we had some snippets from families because, you want to hear what kind of culture are you going to work in? What kind of environment would you be in? And we made this video and sent this out to potential candidates. I shared on social media. The thing about social media, you want to just be careful and make sure that you are mindful. Like I was always I was always advertising for the industry. So I would never put anything on social media that would damage that or that reputation. But I was always on the weekends, I was out with my shirt on, and it created this reputation in the community of, wow, she has a really good school. I want my kid to be there. Like people were traveling 30 minutes to bring their kids to me because they knew I was always sharing things on Facebook. It was, I wanted it to be that I was the preferred employer. I wanted to be the best out there. So I made sure that, I used a lot of social media as far as sharing that commercial or tour. I also sent the tour of the facility that I sent to families to potential candidates. So that way they could get a feel before they even came in for an interview. I think those things just kind of set us apart from the typical, hi, we got your resume, we'd like to talk, can you give us a call back? And then they went on about their day and forgot to call me back. So shifting that up a little bit really helped me. But I mean, nowadays people again are on their phones, they're on social media apps. That's really the way to reach them and getting out in your community. But you're going to get the younger crowd being out on social media.
Certainly not going anywhere. We need to figure out how to use it to our advantage, I think. I think also the platform of social media that you choose. My generation is pretty much stuck in Facebook, and I know Instagram and TikTok, we've already mentioned TikTok, are popular with younger generations. And so figuring out how to have a presence in the right platform and the right place. And, to your point, Amy, being careful about what you have on one platform, because people will find you, whether you want them to find you on Facebook or Instagram. So being careful about that, making sure that what you're presenting is what you want to be seen, and then tailoring to the audience. Again, the way that you would present it on Facebook would probably be different than Instagram, right? And would definitely be different than TikTok. So what aspects of what you're trying to communicate are best conveyed via the different platforms, and TikTok, I'm sure it's a 15 or 30-second engaging video, right? And Instagram is probably a lot of great pictures that can illustrate, and Facebook is maybe a little bit more of a written description, possibly, and possibly a video or something. So very good points. Anybody else reaching out beyond the usual suspects? Where are you trying to recruit people from? Or if you have thoughts about fields that maybe you haven't tried and you think, wow, maybe this would be a good field to tap into. I know one suggestion we had in planning this was potentially talking to the nursing field. There are some transferable skills, certainly, across those fields in terms of care and nurturing, also understanding that there are procedures to be followed to a specific degree, and knowing that somebody's got to be there to do the work. It's not, you don't just get off because your time is up. Someone needs to stay. So, and also, certified nurse assistants, or I'm not sure what they're called in Ohio, are probably in comparable pay ranges, right? They're maybe familiar with some of the demands for the rate of pay. So have you got any STNAs? I'm not sure what the nurse's assistant, I think maybe state nursing assistants. Has anyone thought of other arenas where you might start to make inroads that you haven't already?
I've actually had a lot of candidates come on that are in the nursing field. They want to be pediatric nurses. So a lot of my college students will start with me, and it's a great way for them to gain experience with young children and working with families and learning how to talk to them. So I've actually had 2 or 3 in the last year that were nursing students. I've also had a lot of psychology majors that come in with the mental health background, and they come in and want to work with, they want to be a school counselor. And this, a lot of times in our industry, our jobs sometimes can be stepping stones for someone when they move on to something bigger, which is, in the grand scheme of things, it's great because we're impacting children and we're helping. It just doesn't help us replace our, when they go out the back door. But it can be challenging trying to fill that position, but it is very helpful when you have people of that field as well.
I've had the opposite experience, unfortunately. Being
Oh,
at the hospital, people think it's the foot in the door to get across the street into the hospital, which is fine with me. Again, you're absolutely right, Amy. They get experience of working with kids and what the structure is like. And when positions open up across the way, they go ahead and move over. I did just recently hire somebody from within the hospital, though, who had been a PCA or, that's what we call the patient care assistant. And they've had experience with kids too. Again, our structure way different. But it's a two-way street. I'm all about building people. And if we build them and they move on, sometimes that's okay too.
It's hard to lose good people, but if they're going on to do, other caring work, we can take pride in the part that we played and the important experience that they had. Yeah. So we have an audience participant member, Danette. Danette, if you wouldn't mind just joining us here, I'd be curious. We wanted to hear a little bit maybe of your reflection on the conversation so far, as someone who is part of the early care and early education, higher education community. Just wanted to hear your thoughts and feedback, and whether or not you have any specific questions for the panel.
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Great.
thank you.
So, from the higher ed perspective, we get calls all the time from employers, childcare centers, early childhood programs, asking about our graduates, asking about if we have any students available. And the sad reality is that we don't often have a lot. We share the information right away. We connect employers, at least my institution, and if I can generally speak for some of the other community colleges that I'm associated with through our 2-year coalition of schools. We share them with our career services department so that employers can connect with not just our students, but then also potential alumni. But, as community college enrollment has in general decreased probably in the last 10 years, this has been a strain in terms of helping students respond to those calls that we get. The other issue is that a very large majority of our students that are in our community colleges are already working. Most of them in the field, but not all. And maybe they're working at a fast food restaurant because it fits their schedule, or they're hoping to get in somewhere. And sometimes we can help those students transition into the industry. But the vast majority, like many of you, because you're providing those incentives for them to go back to school, they're doing so while they're already working. I know that a lot of higher ed programs work very closely with the CDA programs in your community, in our communities, to help students transition. But again, most CDA students are students who are employed. They are already working early childhood educators. And so we don't have a huge new pool to draw from, unfortunately. I absolutely love the suggestions about from a higher ed perspective about students in other majors, whether that's human services or some of the healthcare fields and psychology as well. And that's why I always connect employers to our career services, because when we share jobs, it's just with our education students, and the college as a whole can share with broader majors outside of just our education. I know one other, I guess, plus and minus here is that my institution has not just an early childhood program specifically to help prepare individuals to work with that birth through 5 population, but we also have a transfer degree for individuals who want to pursue a K-12 license. And so we're in a way kind of contributing to that pool of people outside of early childhood that go on because they want the K through 3 early childhood, not the 0 to 5 early childhood, right? Clearly we're helping all, and we've seen a huge increase in that program versus our early childhood program. And unfortunately, I think it comes back to students are choosing that route because of pay, because of benefits, because of expectations and perceptions of the field and those kinds of things. So I love all of this conversation. I think it's extremely helpful. I really appreciate hearing the ways that it's important to retain your employees as much as it is to recruit new, because I think that I hear that occasionally as well, that, well, they're trying to get all these new people, but what about the ones that are already staying? So I love that emphasis that you all are taking care of your existing folks. So yeah, so that's just some I guess some feedback. Oh, one other thought, we do work with advisory committees. So those of you that are childcare programs, if you want to have stronger connections with your higher ed programs, you could ask about their advisory committees, advisory councils, whatever they're called at different institutions, because we meet twice a year. It's not a stringent kind of expectation, but we really appreciate those connections, and our student teaching placements happen a lot at the centers that we are most connected to, at Community Action Agency, Head Start programs that often hire our students, and go from there. So just some thoughts.
Thank you very much, Danette. One of the things that you talked about connecting with other majors sort of put me in the mind of medical rotation. When someone is in med school and they go through different rotations, it just makes me think, wouldn't it be nice if there were an opportunity for people who are studying different things to do a rotation in early childhood? And you know, whether that's a week of being a teacher or just some sort of connection to being in a program and doing the work. And I wonder if anyone has thoughts on that. And you know, in doing so, maybe being able to hook some people into changing majors, or bringing someone who has a lot of other valuable, beneficial experience and training into the field.
Yeah, I will share that as a department chair, I see a lot of students who maybe have started out in one profession, and as much as we hate to hear this within early childhood, you know, they couldn't complete some of the rigorous coursework, or they didn't get accepted, but then they say that they love children, so they want to come and work in this field. And I try to explain to them that these are all caring, helping professions, and I try to sort of look past the reasons why and just be glad that they are here with us and want to move forward with us. So I do think there is some benefit to that. And even if they are pursuing those other areas, you know, I guess we take them while we can get them, maybe.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So we have a question from Belinda. She's drawing a parallel to this idea of the nursing field. Friends in the nursing field are saying they do not think they'll ever get back to the level of nurses in the field, because so many have left due to COVID, retired early, or just job stress, just couldn't do it anymore. And that the nursing profession will always be in a deficit. The difference between the need for nurses and the current workforce and current nursing students is too great to ever be filled. So is what they're seeing. And do you worry about that for our profession? The same thing. Are we never going to catch up on this deficit? Are we looking at a fundamental shift in the field, do you think?
I think unless we can come up with some more grants and monies to be able to raise our rates, I think we are too. People are just not interested in working right now. And unless you have a love for children, this is not the place for you. I know we had a nurse that brings her child here and was making less money than what we were making here, and which was sad. But it does scare me. I think we're in a time of we haven't closed any classrooms. We did have to take one classroom down to half. But I am a little worried about it.
Anybody else? Do you think we're at a critical point? And maybe the follow-up question to that is, do you think that this could be parlayed into an action, a point of action where we can say, look, until we start to address the low pay, the benefits issue, and so on, this field is never going to recuperate. And do you think that this is an opportunity to leverage these realities? Because we know that every other industry relies on their employees being able to have quality care and education for their children. So, perhaps this is one of those moments where the realities are going to stare the right people in the face, and we can use this as a point of leverage. Any thoughts on that?
Coming from a corporation that was very focused on growth and getting back to pre-COVID enrollment and numbers for financial viability, my thought was, as a large corporation, until we look at staffing the same way we do growth, we're not going to get it figured out. Because if we have to close a classroom, when a teacher gives your 2-week notice, if they give a notice, let's be honest, but you're instantly feeling, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to have to tell 24 preschoolers that they cannot come in 2 weeks because I don't have a teacher? Am I going to be the teacher? And unfortunately, in our situation, there are too many of those instances occurring, and you can't cover all the gaps. So I worry that we come to a situation where we do have to close classrooms and deny care, and then people are left without childcare. And then that scares me for children, because parents will be faced to make very difficult decisions.
Yeah, many states over the last several years have obviously been moving toward ensuring quality as part of the professionalization of the field. And we've seen that with quality rating systems and different efforts really targeting quality as a measure above minimal licensing standards. And I know in Georgia, there was an immediate cut in the number of providers, and a lot of them went underground. And because they didn't want to participate, or the new requirements for educational level and so on were seen as too onerous. And so a lot of programs either closed or they went underground. And so I think, Amy, you're right to worry if we really cannot keep staffed the programs that are quality, where people would feel good and confident in having their children. That doesn't mean that the need for care is going to go away, and people are going to turn to whatever opportunity they have. And in some cases, we're going to go back to a much darker time when there was not as much regulation or unregulated programs.
I
Well,
think for the first time in our career, childcare is everywhere. It's in national news. It's in the president's agenda. For the first time in the 30 some odd years I've been doing this, there's huge voices out there standing up for us. I would hate to think that quality gets lost in the quest for quantity. But I think if enough of us in the field stand up and make our voices heard, we can make sure that continues to be, in spite of people in Ohio that are trying for it to be otherwise. I think that we can actually have a voice for once. First time in my career.
An amazing feeling for people who've been doing it. Yeah, Denise?
It's different.
Yeah, I've been in the field a long time too, and it seems like we've always been fighting the same fight. But we have two people at Learning Grove who are laser focused on advocacy, both in the state of Ohio and the state of Kentucky, to keep bringing this point forward. We are essential workers. We need more funding to be able to hold on to the people that we have and to attract more people to our field. I mean, that's just it. If we aren't operating at full capacity, then what's happening to the employers in both of our states? So we have to keep pushing forward, keep advocating.
Agreed.
Absolutely. So we just have a couple of minutes left, and I do want to pull up one more poll question. And you know, this is a topic that we could talk for days and days and days about, of course, and one that we're not going to solve today. But you know, I'd like to pull up the last poll question because I do want this to also focus on the positive. And the last poll question is, what do you think is the primary reason that professionals are choosing to stay in the field? Here you see rate of pay, opportunity to make a difference, not qualified for other employment. They love the babies. ECE is part of their personal identity. So we see opportunity to make a difference. That's I guess the winning answer. And I think that, you know, we absolutely need people who start with that perspective, who start with that desire. And it is a team effort for those who are out there in higher education, who are helping to prepare this workforce and to provide the workforce with the viable candidates that we need. It is absolutely, as someone else said, everything is relationship based now. We've known that in early childhood since its inception. And that relationship extends between the child and the caregiver and the parent, the program, and the higher education community. We need these relationships. And I'm so glad that we had this conversation today. You know, we need teachers who are going to be coming out of school prepared to enter the workforce. And so I just have, we have 1 minute left, and I just want to open it up to all of our panelists to share maybe one thought on what you think is something that you want our higher education community to know, a parting thought about what they can do to prepare the workforce for your programs, and maybe even particularly what would be helpful in terms of this particular time of COVID and sort of the extra components and factors that brings. So just a final thought on what we'd like our audience to know.
I think this is our opportunity to just show the world that we do have the most important job in the world, or this is our ability to change how people treat people, how little children grow up. We literally have the most important job with the amount of brain development that happens in that first 5 years. So keep speaking your truth and tell our stories out there, how important it is. The burnout is real, but we're still trucking along. We are still 100% committed to changing this. And thank you for all that you do.
I would just say that our students, before they graduate, need to have some kind of experience working in multicultural situations. Go get some experience working in a program where the children and the families are different from yours, because we have an increasingly multicultural international community, and we need to be prepared to work with everyone.
Amen.
I think for us, just thank you too for your service in upper ed, and just showing people that there are loving families and administrators and staff that care about each other and care about the needs of these children. That's what we're about here. We're 5-star rated. We want to keep that rating. We want to keep the quality. We're a small area where we're the only 5-star here. So everyone wants to come here. So we have a list and it's disheartening. But just let them know that there's so much joy in teaching children and spending time with them as you see them grow. And as you spend, I've been here 29 years, so I'm seeing my students when I first stopped bringing their children here now, because they won't take them anyplace else. To let them know that the importance of the importance they're going to make in these lives of these children, that one day their children, you're going to see them out in the world somewhere, and they're going to say, you helped me. You were there for me. It's such a neat feeling to feel.
And I would just say, just continue to stand with us when there's advocacy, abilities, step up and make your voice heard along with ours about how important the work is that we do.
Excellent. Well, thank you everyone very much. We've run a few minutes over. I think that just speaks to the significance of this topic. I want to thank Nancy, Kim, Stacy, Amy, Denise, and Danette for being on our panel. And Judith, thank you for putting this together. Thank you to all of our participants. This is just one conversation about it. We know that things are fairly serious right now in terms of this need, but we do want to focus on the positive. I hope there have been some concrete ideas that have come out of this, and I'd love to check back in at some point and find out where I can watch the TikTok for all of your programs. And I've heard ideas to connect with advisory councils and committees, keeping this connection, this relationship between higher ed and those on the front lines doing the work. So thank you all very much for what you do every day in the service of children and their families. You are true unsung heroes. And it's been a privilege and a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for giving us
Thank
the
you.
opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate Catherine's, we're very excited to have you all here and taking time out of your schedules to provide these powerful insights that I think will help continue those conversations. And Catherine, I appreciate you serving as our moderator today, keeping our conversations and having a rich discussion.
Thank you.
No problem.
Have a good
Everyone,
day.
wonderful. Well, everyone, this concludes our sessions for today. Tomorrow we will be back again at 9 a.m. With our Zoom link, and hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.